Very welcome. And by saying welcome, I say hi to you. So maybe you can say hi back. So, dit werkt dan. So hi. Welcome at this webinar, at this online mission to China. And in this mission, we get a lecture from Mr. Hao. If I pronounce it correctly, very sorry if I don't. And he's from the Academic Information Center at the China Academy of Urban Planning and Design. But before we go there, we have a small tradition on these online missions that the first first words are from somebody from the Netherlands, and we asked Matthias Lehner from the Royal Institute of Dutch Architects to share some welcome thoughts with us. Matthias, it's up to you. And then we head on. I will say something about the presentation, etc. But the first words are to you, Matthias. You have to unmute yourself first, Matthias.
Okay, you can hear me now?
Yeah, very good.
Perfect. Thank you, Jan Willem. Thank you for the invitation also. I'm very curious to learn also from the other experts speaking here today. And of course, we are very open for future collaboration on this important topic. Maybe guess a short introduction of what the Royal Institute of Dutch Architects is. We are an organization that are more than 175 years old, and about 1,000 companies, architectural offices, and that's more or less 2/3 of all the Dutch ones are united in BNR. And our focus is to strengthen entrepreneurship of our members and to promote, of course, architecture and the values created by architecture. I'm heading the international program at BNR. That's a program we have since 2012. And personally, I have an interest in the growth of cities and with a focus on sustainability, looking at cities like an ecosystem. The program itself is basically a program for international collaboration and exchange. We have a twofold goal with that. Firstly, we want to create a learning environment so that there is mutual exchange and that offices become more resilient. Secondly, we think it's important to promote the power of architecture when it comes to solutions for the global challenges like sustainable cities, and those might be able to profit from Dutch expertise. So why are we interested in the topic of sustainable cities in China? It's twofold. Firstly, we are interested in collaborating in solving this kind of urban urgencies to learn and to co-create. And secondly, I think the Dutch also have quite an interesting track record and really have expertise to contribute. If we look at the Dutch situation, for example, we had something which was called the Phoenix operation in the 90s, where we built in a very short time almost 1 million new houses. And now, after the financial crisis, demand is equally big. Plus, that we want to make the houses sustainable and Paris-proof. So, for example, we have a program which is called the Bauagenda, which basically means that there will be coming another 1 million new houses, and 2.5 million houses have to be reconstructed to be fit for the sustainability goals. To give an idea also for our foreign guests, that will be about 1,600 billion euros. So to sum up, there is an urgency to act quick also for us, to come up with clever solutions and to think out of the box. So I'm very open to collaborate with our Chinese partners on these. And I brought a couple of slides also to show a little bit, and I hope I can share my screen. Let me try this, my first WebEx meeting here. Let's have a look. Can you see my screen? Hello, can you see my screen? Oh, I see a thumbs up. Perfect.
Yes.
Perfect. I think what I would like to share at the introduction is what we have learned so far when it comes to the topic of sustainable cities. And for example, we had an evening conference earlier this year, the Make Happen Inspiration Night on the UN Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs. And what we have learned is that these SDGs globally are widely accepted, and that there is much more demand to really come up with sustainable solutions. That means also, actually, if you want to stay in business as an architectural office, you have to embrace the UN SDGs. Secondly, we also learned that many of the Dutch offices already work with this agenda abroad. What we also learned is that when we brought the architects to the foreign markets, that there is many countries where they actually can contribute. What you see here is the Expo Real. We had some events there also with European partners about the extra value that can be created by architecture. And we learned also from the feedback from foreign parties. I'll show the next, is that what there's two basically tools to really work on sustainable cities. One is to use technology to scale up. And we learned that BIM, for example, in Holland is really advanced and it's everyday business. So many people use technology like virtual reality, BIM, but also registering of materials when it comes to circularity. And I show these two projects here from members of PNA, which are completely circular projects. So they are designed to be built, but also to be dismantled, maybe replaced to another location and be reused. One is a court here in Amsterdam, and the other one is a conference center by a bank, actually. We also had a meeting just about China, and we were hosted by Inbo, one of our members who also have a Chinese branch. And what we learned is that there's really a lot of possibilities to collaborate on the Chinese market. And it's not only Inbo, this office, which is a larger office who work in China, but there is many offices, some of them you know, but also very small offices. And I show on the screen a couple of projects of BNA members who already work in China, and you can see it's a huge variety. So I would invite you to have a look at dutcharchitects.org to see more of these projects. To come to a conclusion, I think our interest and the interest of our members is that we want to collaborate and to exchange and to learn from each other. And as I said, it's not only an opportunity, it's really also an urgency. We have a mutual interest to create sustainable cities. So I would say, to kick off, let's start creating sustainable cities now.
Thank you, thank you so much for this warm welcome from out Amsterdam, I guess.
Yes.
You never know where people are. I will share some slides to give the context, and then we head over to our main lecture. And this one, I guess. So, welcome again at our online mission to China, which we organize together with the Netherlands Enterprise Agency and the Ministry of the Interior. And we do 5 online missions during this quarantine period. We already flew to Korea, to New York, and to Brussels. And in some weeks, we will fly to India as well. And we're here together with people from all around the world. You can see where they're from at the top of this slide. So we already got a very warm welcome from Matthias Lehner, and then we, after my short introduction, we will head over to Mr. Hao. He is from the Academic Information Center in China, at the China Academy of Urban Planning and Design. And I'm very curious to hear from his experience. And after that, Harry Den Hartog, a founder at Urban Language, a Dutch-Chinese company, will ask the first question to Mr. Hao. And that's kind of tradition during our webinars. So my name is Jan-Willem Westlink. I'm the program manager at the Future City Foundation. And I would be pleased if you put in the chat box who you are and maybe also your LinkedIn address, so we can, during this meeting, also meet up with each other and get connected to each other. So I think you're all familiar already to WebEx, but we have a mute master today. This is Wendelijn, and she will mute you if the noises are too inconvenient. You can ask questions. You can do that in the chat box, which you can find at the bottom of your screen. So we get an interactive event. Please notice them to everyone. And if you have problems with hearing or seeing, please use the video or the audio settings to fix that. So what's the Future City Foundation? We are a movement of communities connected to the Fireware Foundation. These are our members, our partners at the moment, connected to Fireware, as I said, and we are working on partner science. We combine public and private knowledge on that. And we bridge the gap. We try to bridge the gap between tech and the city. And we focus on the questions how cities, villages, and regions are changing because of this industrial revolution we're in. And we focus on the question how to arrange this this changement. So we focus at public administration, politics, technique, and urban planning, and that's what we're talking about today. And one step further on that technical, on that urban planning part, we're now working on what's called in good Dutch city deal. And in that city deal, we start with 4 changements we see that. So we want a sustainable and democratic city. In that city, we want to design everything as a democratic smart network. We design flexibility and meaningfulness. And what we do now is that we want to collect, develop, test, and implement tooling to use that in that new urban planning we get because of this industrial revolution. And if you want to know more about it, you can easily scan this QR code, and then you go to our website and you find more information. It's in Dutch, but you can always translate it. We're doing that not at our own, but with 40 partners, because this is a city deal of the urban agenda. And in city deals, there are more of these programs also on the social and physical and other subjects. And we're doing it together with the Ministry of the Interior and the city network G40. So next slide. Heading back, yeah, and because of that city deal, we also want to learn from what's going on in the rest of the world, because we want to combine those knowledges. So going back to the program of today, and that's the lecture from Mr. Howe. So I will stop sharing my screen, and before that, if you want to connect with me, I will also put my LinkedIn address in the chat, but you can also scan this. So heading over to Mr. Howe. Are you there from China? Maybe, yeah, very welcome.
Okay, now I share my laptop.
Yeah, great.
So hello, can you hear me?
I can hear you very good.
Okay, you can see
me too?
yeah.
I can also see your slides.
You can see my slides. It's bilingual.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Hello, everybody. Good afternoon. My name is Hao. I'm from the Innovation Center in China Academy of Urban Planning and Design. My work is about smart city planning. So smart city is also highly related to sustainability. And my work focuses on the old city area in Beijing. I will give a brief introduction of our projects here. So it's about the smart city and city planning in the old town. First, I want to review the urbanization. Nowadays, we are in the digital era, so the urbanization is also digital urbanization. For the first time now, so all the cities on the earth, we stand together to look forward to the future of mankind. So smart city is our perspective to forecast the future. Okay, I also want to review the China's urbanization transformation. China's urbanization is shifting from the new city expansion to urban renewal. And also the urbanization model is shifting from materials space to digital twin. It means nowadays we are looking at both the physical world and the virtual world. Third, the paradigm of the urbanization is shifting from instrumental rationality to cultural leadership. It means the culture and historical elements play more and more important role in the urbanization. Many of our projects took place in the old city area in Beijing. This area is also the most representative old city in China. The old city has a rich historical and cultural heritage, but nowadays the old city is declining with the many residents are the vulnerable groups. So our vision is to use smart technology to achieve inclusive and social equity and sustainable development in the old city. So this is the development vision of our projects based on culture plus technology development path through international cooperation to build a model of smart governance of the old city. Lead the revival of the old city in China in the information era. So we want to build the old city in Beijing to be a model for the future city with cultural revival, quality of life, social justice, inclusive development, and sustainable development. So our work is a series of projects which can be divided into 4 aspects: public participation, urban regeneration, city examination, and digital Expo. In the first part of public participation, we developed a mini program in WeChat. It's called Shitu. It's a public participation platform based on the smartphone. All the local residents can just use this platform to identify the urban problems around them, and they can draw some different points on the map. The different color of the different points means specific urban problems. And then we can collect the data from this platform and improve our urban planning. So it's a quite good way to collect public's opinion about the urban environment. We also use AI technology to identify the people's image from the city. We collected hundreds of thousands photos from internet, from the social media and online maps, and use AI technology to identify, to recognize the street beauty, visual pleasantness, and we do lots of research based on this. Also, on the smartphone, we designed many questionnaires, and we also made an online urban design competition. It's called Our Blog. Try to encourage public participation in the urban renewal process. Actually, in the urban design competition, many common people joined this competition. This competition is for the common people, not the professional urban designer. We do get many ideas from the local people on the urban design, and such we can improve our urban design in the old city. And also data opening is quite crucial for the public participation. As a National Institute of Urban Planning and Design, we have lots of urban and rural information, and we do our best to open this information. And we designed lots of information platform, which can be also called digital museums. This is the slide shows the digital museums of the traditional village. More than 7,000 villages. Data and pictures are open to public through the smartphone and the laptop computer. So this database openness can make the public more transparent. The second part is about our planning, but nowadays we are using IT technology to make our urban planning more smarter. First, we use lots of AI technology and AR and VR technology and 3D modeling to do the 3D exhibition for the urban planning. People can get immersive experience from the glass to know what it looks like before and what it will look like after our urban planning. We also have a physical living room. It's called City Living Room in the old town. We reconstructed courtyard and make it like a public open house. We organize the different open house activity and invite the local people come here to discuss what their neighborhood will be look like, collect different people's opinion about urban planning. In the old city area, we also did some reconstruction and designed some mini park because the space in the old city area is quite limited. So the park is quite small. It's only called mini park in the corners in the corner of the street. But we make full use of intelligent applications in the mini park and try to attract the young people in the old city area and try to improve the interaction between people and the environment. And also the renovation of old community is an important part of our work. We use lots of IT application and big data technology to improve the old community and try to meet the diverse needs of the residents. Spatial planning is important, but spatial operation is also crucial. During the Beta Temple Beijing Design Week, we organized some public games, especially for the young people and children to join the games to explore the old city with new technologies. This scavenger hunt game is based on IoT, so people can get clues and data from our sensor, and from this clue they can try to explore the old city, the old neighborhood and the counter yard in a different way. They can get more experience, a new experience of the old city. So this game is quite popular in the International Design Week. Also in the International Design Week, we invited some old people to do the storytelling salon, which attracted many young people and some tourists. This is quite interesting, and it also can remind citizens to protect the old city and collect people's opinion on the urban renewal. Also, we work with some new medias with Douyin, Kuaishou, like TikTok in Europe. We work with these new media companies to promote the urban renewal and culture and the creative industries in the old city. The third part is urban examination. We do block-based urban examination and evaluation. And we did lots of qualitative research on street views, neighborhood environment, facilities, and so on. Our work is try to build the old city gene bank to achieve a sustainable development in the digital era. And we also designed lots of different index on the log-based area in the old city for the population, the economy, ecology, and so on. And try to visualize it on our information platform. And we also, based on the index, we also wrote some report for the city mayor about the development in the old city area. This is the field work we have done. We organized some volunteer. Many of the volunteers are from the university students. The volunteers went to the old city's streets and watched the people's behavior, and then they draw some behavior map. So this is quite helpful for our in-depth understanding of the old city's daily life. So we combined the field work study and our big data analysis to get a comprehensive understanding of the old city. And IoT is quite important. So we planted more than 100 different sensors in the old city neighborhood. The sensors are planted on the wall and all the street light pole. And we can get lots of data of the environment, people, the vehicle, from the sensors, then do lots of big data research and try to provide a solution for the urban disease in the old city. The last part of our work is the digital Expo. It provides us a full display of the culture heritage. So it's about the culture landscape. We designed culture museum based on VR and GIS and lots of IT technology. But our database is always open to public. So the Open Digital Data Museum provides the public the old city's image, different data, different maps of different in different ages. So the people can get to know the old city just from internet. It can also provide the tourist a different way to explore the old city. So this is the work we have done, and this is the outcome of our work. So the co-construction, co-governance, and sharing of the old city between the local authorities, market, and the individuals is our goal of our work. In my opinion, smart city means not only technology, but it also play like a bridge which can link the different stakeholders' interest. Like in the smart city project, the urban citizens can express their ideas about the public policies better. they have a different way to they have different way to express their ideas about the urban development. And for the enterprise, it provides a very good field for their ICT products. They can apply their technology innovation in this field. And for the local authorities, they can have more transparent and open and process decisions, especially for the decision maker. They can have a more inclusive public policy for their own city. So this is the work we have done. And I think the smart city will become more and more important in the urban governance. Okay, so thank you very much. And the picture here is the QR code of our WeChat account. But unfortunately, it's only in Chinese. Maybe we will have a bilingual version in the future. And please feel free to scan. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Hao. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for this very interesting presentation. And we will share this link and also the links you have earlier on in your presentation in the mail we sent to the participants of this presentation afterwards. So everybody has time enough to get to that website. We have a tradition that we have somebody who can ask the first question, and we ask Mr. Harry Den Hartog to do that. Mr. Den Hartog, are you in the group? Because we didn't see your name popping up. Maybe you took an anonymous account.
Maybe.
Mr. Den Hartog. Kassadri. Okay, I think we have a problem with Mr. Den Hartog. He's stuck somewhere in the traffic. So I will ask you the first question, Mr. Hao. I will take, I see somebody who takes over and he says a first question to our Chinese colleague, and that's from Xiao Chung Wan, if I pronounce it correctly, from the East-West Urban Consultancy. And he or she says, first question to our Chinese colleague, how did you get contact with the local residents? Did you use their telephone number? Did you, and are these data protected? So maybe that's a good one to open up. If somebody takes the floor, we have to use that moment. So, Mr. Hao, the question to you is, how did you get in contact with all those local residents you talked about in the presentation?
We use different ways. One popular way is to use social media, like WeChat. It's like WhatsApp.
Mm-hmm.
The different apps on the smartphone, especially for the young people, they prefer this communication way. Of course, their personal data are protected. We think the privacy of the people should be protected in our big data research. And we designed a different questionnaire on different social platforms. Some social platforms are popular among the young people. Some social media are very popular among the old people. We designed a different version of questionnaire to invite a different group of people join the public discussion.
And did you also record it for yourself, so to say, if you have a good spread among all the target groups you want to reach with your research? So do you know? So how do you keep control that you have a balanced group of people?
Yes, actually, we did some research before we started the public discussion. We looked at the demographic data of the and try to make a balance between different groups based on the census data. We know like how many people here are old people, their different age groups, and try to make a balance between the local people and the outcomers.
Okay, and one other question from my side: Did it? So you started this. When did you exactly started this project?
Actually, we have done this. We did this project for like several years, at least
Okay.
2 or 3 years, and we work with the local organizations, the street organizations, and it's like institute work, and we have we keep a very good connection with the local organization, and they can invite different people in our public discussion, in our open house.
And do you have the feeling that it brings you better? So you do it to get a better perspective of what the people want, right? But what are the? Can you mention some concrete benefits of it? So can you say, for example, this project we came to another conclusion because of this research?
Actually, in the past, we only made urban planning for the city, not for the local people. We didn't get enough idea of the local people. So some projects we have done in the past, it looks great, but it was not very popular for the local people. Maybe they didn't like the park. But nowadays, by using the online and offline data collection, we get to know, we have a more in-depth understanding of the local people's needs. And nowadays, we designed some street corner park. You can see it is always full of the people. People will use the space. In the past, the space may be not very popular.
So you see it in real life. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, going to the chat box, there's a question from Katja, and she asked us, and I will read the question for you. According to this app on WeChat, where citizens from the old city in Beijing can report problems related to city planning, etc., what kind of problems do they address the most? So is it more related to social problems or sustainable problems or something else? So what are the needs of the citizens you found out by that WeChat app?
I think it's about the public space. So this is quite different from the Western countries' cities, because in traditional Chinese cities, there is very limited public space, like a park, and the people only communicate with each other in the streets. So especially in the old town in Beijing, the public space is quite limited. So almost everyone wants to have a small park near their neighbor in their neighborhood. I think this is quite popular, but because the old town's space is quite limited, we can only design some mini park, street corner park, but it do improve people's life. It is quite popular among the people.
So it brought you the knowledge where to design those mini parks, for example.
maybe just in a street corner. It's very small, a mini park with some plantings, with very mini landscape. But people love it.
Yeah, yeah. Another question from Luke. How do you ensure that people from all walks of life are represented in your surveys? We already took that one. I asked it also to you. So you did research for that. Another question: what is, according to you, China's or Beijing's strongest point when it comes to smart city planning? And what would you definitely recommend other countries to get into as well? So what is your advice? So, if I understand it correctly, this question: what do you think we can learn from the Chinese approach on smart cities for the rest of the world?
I have two recommendations. First one is using social media and new media, like TikTok is quite popular among the young people, right? You can work with the new media like TikTok and Instagram to encourage the young people in this social discussion, especially for the urban renewal process. Because the young people are the residents in the digital age. The second recommendation is smart city planning should be inclusive, not only focus on the technology parts. We should try to integrate more and more cultural and humanistic elements into smart city. A smart city planning should not only about the information technology, but more about the people's daily lives.
Okay, is that also a lesson you've learned, because China is also known as one of the cities who has focused very much on technique, on the technique part of smart cities. Is it something you changed your opinion about? You learned from that development?
Sorry, can you repeat your question?
Yeah. What I try to ask you is, so when we look at China, we see that focus on technique. We see,
Yeah.
for example, when we go to the Barcelona Expo, and you go to the China pavilion, there's a lot of focus on techniques. Is
Yes.
this presentation you gave us, is that also a new insight in the Chinese ways of looking on smart cities? That's something you've learned.
Yes, this is my opinion. To be honest, the smart city in China is dominated by the IT companies. It's very technical, but I don't like it. Actually, smart city, the concept is originated from the IBM's Smart Earth. It's quite technical and commercial, and I don't like their idea because they narrowed the definition of smart. What we think about smart should be integration of people's intelligence and artificial intelligence together. But now, as a developing country, China, of course, the developing country prefer technology. So, but now the situation is changing, especially in the urban planning field. More and more researchers, planners, and local officials have a different idea from the IT companies. And now more and more people think the technology is not the most important thing. The most important thing is people's daily lives. Is the scenario of the technology's application.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
Yeah, and you're trying to use those new technologies to improve their lives. So it goes more
Yeah.
together.
Yes, and the situation is changing, and I mean, maybe in a few years, not so many people, most people still focus on technology, but nowadays more and more people urges for inclusive development of smart city, not only technology.
Okay, thank you so much. A question from Jan Roest about the lesson you learned by using data and smart city technology. And that's something you already answered because of those little parks, those green spots in the city. Another question: if the concept of the mini park is the concept of the mini park a public development, or is it also business or common development? So is that something you as a city? Is it something addressed to the city, or is it also addressed to companies?
It's addressed for the city. So all the mini park are public. It's not operated by commercial city.
Okay. A question from Matthias Lehne, who also has the first word, so to say. There are many very good Chinese architects too. What expertise do you need from, for example, Dutch experts? What is what is needed for the plans to have, which they do not have themselves? So, on what aspect can we collaborate? So, if you look to other countries, what expertise um, on on this and on other fields of expertise can you need?
So sorry, can you repeat your question? The
Yeah, of course.
network is a
So
little
I
bit
I will say
congested.
it in my own words. So and this is also an online mission, and so people from all around the world look at what you're doing and on what fields of expertise can you do you need um, companies and architects, etc., from outside of China? Because you have a lot of expertise in China.
Yes, I think we need uh, lots of international experts and in different fields. The first is the uh, artificial intelligence. And I know in some developed countries they have better experience in applying artificial intelligence in urban governance and policy making. And secondly is the public participation. And although our work, although we have done lots of work in public participation, but uh, public participation is still not very popular in China. We don't have enough experience. Maybe just a few years ago, we started to promote the public participation online and offline in the urban planning. So
Okay.
and also the open house. To be honest, we uh, most of our public participation is online, and I think we need more experience to do the public participation offline
Okay.
in the real world.
And that's also something you want to learn and to head on with experts from other countries, for example.
Yes, yeah.
Okay, thank you so much. A question from Marcia. How are the needs of the citizens combined with sustainability needs like climate adaptation, etc.? That's something China is also very ahead on. So how is that big topic related to your presentation?
You mean the climate, the environmental needs for the public?
Yes.
Yes, especially for the traffic congestion and air pollution. I think these are the two main questions. And we both from the survey, from the questionnaire, many people care about the two things, the traffic jam and the air pollution. Especially for the air pollution, we designed our sensor, which can monitor the air pollution in block level. I mean, you can see the air quality index of Beijing, but it is only one number for the whole city. But from our sensor, we can see the different blocks, different neighborhoods, they have very different air quality. So we did lots of research on this and made and gave lots of recommendations for the policymakers to improve the air quality on the block level.
Yeah. So that's also a layer in your urban planning process, right? You have kind of different layers in your digital twin. Can I understand it that way?
Yes. It's like one layer in the information platform.
Yeah. Do you also combine the information from the different layers? Let's say somebody in TikTok mentioned something, and you also see it back in the layer on pollution or on traffic. Do you also are you also looking for those kind of how do you say it? Connections between the layers?
Yes, we can find the different connection. We can find the connection between different layers. For example, the neighborhoods which are close to the major streets will have worse air quality.
Okay.
So we did lots of qualitative research based on different layers, based on various index, and the mathematic function is quite complicated, but we do find some connection between different layers.
Okay, thank you. Before we head on to answer the questions which are still in the chat box, it's heading towards 10 o'clock in the morning in Central Europe. So that's more or less the end of this meeting. We will go on with the final questions. But before that, I want to say thank you so much for this inspiring presentation, and I also want to say bye-bye to everybody who was in the presentation during our webinar. Thank you so much for joining us again. We will send you a mail about the online mission to India. But thank you so much. Bye-bye. And we will go on with some final questions, Mr. Hao. And that's there is a question from Chao Chung, does the smart city technique also help the decision making in urban renewal? I think you already answered that one also in our last questions, right? There's a question from Mr. John Laban. Open data was emphasized in the presentation as a key enabler. How important are the other two open source software and open source hardware? Do you also need that open source software and open source hardware? Is it important in your project?
Yes, open software is very important in our projects. We use lots of open software and open source, and also lots of open data. We collect lots of data from internet, and most of the data are open data.
Okay. Thank you so much. And there's also a question from Guus Derks regarding to this one. Did you use open source software to create? Yeah, can you tell us what kind of software you used for the digital twin? Is the question from Guus Derks. Maybe you can share it in private, but can you tell us what you used to build the digital twin?
Actually, we didn't build a digital twin in old city, in old town of Beijing. We use digital twin in some new zoo, like Xiong'an new zoo. In the old city of Beijing, we just get some idea from the digital twin, and it is GIS based.
Okay, thank you so much. Yes, I think those were the questions. So thanks again for this inspiring presentation, and have a good afternoon further on, because it's you're already done with this day, right?
Yeah, it's 4 p.m. here.
Okay, so you can go home now.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Mogen we dan nu weer praten?
Ik vond het echt interessant. Very interesting.